listeners, welcome. I'm Susie along with James. Look how I did that today. I'm so proud of
That was
myself.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was just amazing.
So what's on your mind today, James?
Well, we were talking before we jumped in that there's been a lot of obvious layoffs going on, and I've been talking to a lot of my friends who have been going through transitions, and we've had layoffs. There's been some at BlackRock, as our listeners know. There's my friends in the Valley and the Bay Area are getting hit really hard, and we've had some larger cuts here in Denver as well. And I found it really interesting that there's kind of like two camps when you talk to somebody who has had a forced separation from the company. And there's those people who are, quote, going to take some time off, and they're going to, literally that's it, take some time off. And then there's other folks who are going to look at it from a different point of view and keep, keep chugging along and maybe, start working really hard on their next gig.
Yeah.
From a coaching perspective and a mental health perspective, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's I think there's a balance there. And I often hear people say, in fact, I've had some friends of mine who have gotten recently laid off and they get this package. And so you have you feel like you have this time that you can just kind of like sit. And I get this popular sentence of, I'm gonna figure out what my next steps are. Figure out what I'm going to do. And I think there's a balance between how active you are in that or how passive you are in that. Like I think some people picture going and taking a novel to the beach and just sitting there and doing nothing, like really disconnecting, which I think there's something good about really making a disconnect, especially if you've just come out of a lot of stress. There's been a lot going on in businesses. So there is time that you need to diffuse, maybe, is that the right word? Or kind of unwind. But I really think that you don't jump right back in. You kind of, but you don't completely unplug, but there's something in the middle of that. What do you think?
Interesting. Yeah, I think that, certainly for me, concern would be that I would, never go back. Right. That tool would start to dull and boy, this beach and that book, there's 20 more books I haven't finished reading. And there's at least a complete another case of beer I haven't finished. So yeah, what's the balance between checking out and just changing your perspective?
Yeah. And to your point too, is that the longer that time goes by, it just kind of starts to just go by. And then you feel out of the loop. You feel like you're getting irrelevant and that you're not in it. So this insecurity seeps in. So,
I think that's a great point.
So I think it's really important to stay connected to some perspective. And then those are the tips. Those are going to be around the tips that I provide because I'm doing the tips today.
Oh, you've got the three. I'm excited to hear that. I wanted to point out too to our listeners, most of our listeners are pretty senior folks. That next job is going to take some time.
Oh, for sure.
It could be anywhere from 6 months to 18 months for that next role. And that's if you start on day, T+1. And so, to your point, that downtime, is, has got to be considered into that time frame because it does ultimately.
Yes,
you don't want to waste
I totally
time,
agree.
And you got to start the clock starts.
Forget. Yes, and we forget that it is a long length of time, especially for senior people. You're exactly right. I think there's a metric around it, but it is at least 12 months, I would say, to your point.
One thing I remind people, and then I'm going to let you give us your 3 tips here, is that what I love is when you sit back and when you're a candidate and you're interviewing for a role, you often get frustrated. But then if you remind yourself that when you're hiring for somebody, how often things get delayed and how often HR goes on vacation or the guy from recruiting wasn't available or you had to go deal with some sort of operational fire. And so the entire process gets delayed by a month.
Yes.
And for you as the hiring manager, it's not that big of a deal. But for the candidate, it is like the most excruciatingly long time. And so, time takes time and these things are hard. And so I think it's interesting to keep that in mind when you're thinking about your next steps.
I think the other side to that as well is if you completely disconnect people, you won't be seen. People
Yeah.
need to know
Yep.
you're
Hmm.
still
Hmm.
around, and so these
Yep.
tips help you be seen in a
That's right.
time where you don't wanna be invisible.
Oh, I
So
think that's a great tip. Yeah. Okay. So let me hear your first tip.
yeah, this is hard for you. I can tell you're struggling with me doing this part, so
Oh no, I'm
it'll
just so
be
excited.
okay.
I don't know what to do with myself.
All right, so the number 1 tip is to continue to network, but network
Mm,
light.
mm,
And I think if you can put a metric around it, even once a week, find one person that you need to connect with. And don't get too in your head about is it have to be at a certain company, a certain person, but somebody that is in your space or somebody that you find interesting or maybe somebody that is ahead of you in your career. If you can connect with one person that's in your network a week, that will keep you engaged with people. They'll
right,
help you remember or be aware of what's going on in their company. Ask questions like, "Hey, what does it feel like in your culture right now?
right,
What kind of investments are you guys making?" Like just out of curiosity and interest, and understand from their perspective what's going on. Not woe is me.
right.
I got laid off. Don't make it about that. Make it about them and just saying that you're really looking for what's next for you.
Well, I like that. I like networking light, and I like also it's important for you to kind of re polish those conversational skills that are
Yes.
outside of that role. These are this time is an opportunity for you to kind of get your interviewing skills back up to par. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
And don't be afraid if you haven't reached out to people in a while. It's okay, but don't have it all about you. Have it about
Sure.
them.
Right. Yeah, I think we've had there's a lot of research that shows that people enjoy hearing from you, regardless of how long it is,
Yes.
and it's usually you projecting your issues on that time
Yeah.
frame. And yeah, certainly if you're reaching out for just a job, it's one thing, but just a casual reconnection, even if after a year or two, it's always welcome.
Yeah. All right.
All
So,
right, what's second?
yes, tip number 2 is self reflection. Everybody always says, I'm going to take time
Mm.
to figure out what's next for me. Yes, but more active than passive.
Oh, huge.
And so,
Absolutely.
really thinking about spending time and again, putting a metric in place where maybe once a week you spend an hour at least, and you think about, you look back on what did you love about your job, what
Mm.
did you like about the role, what did you like about the company. Start to really figure out what lights you up, what
Right.
is next for you. So when you're asking yourself that question, it's not just I'm not really sure. You're starting to put a little bit of meat around it, because when you're networking with people, you can start to say, listen, this is what I was really good at. This is what I want to continue to do. And that will help you continue to put some meat on the bones of what you want to do next.
Yeah, I love that. I think the active nature is so important because there is the passive self reflection, which comes through an occasional moment of clarity. But if you actively put a plan together to do that, you're going to start crafting your story. You're going to put meat on the bone, as you put it, and I think that's so important to keep you sharp. Is that you really put a thought behind how you're doing that self reflection.
Yeah. And I hear a lot of people say, I'm just going to disconnect and figure out what I'm going to do next. It's not just going to, you're not going to wake up one day and just be enlightened by it.
Right,
You
right.
need to make that time to really be thoughtful about that. And if
Hmm.
you do a little
Hmm.
at a time, you won't wake up months after and go, what the heck am I
What
doing?
the heck happened? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you will feel that way. Your confidence wanes a little bit as you go through the journey. And so having
So
this
true.
active kind of connection to yourself will help you at those times pull yourself back up.
Yeah, I think people, most of the companies that I've worked with over the years, that a lot of what they offer to those who have been recently displaced is a plan, just a
Hmm.
plan, right? And
Yep.
just to have that kind of foundation gives confidence and deals with those times of difficulty. And so, yeah, I think actively doing that self reflection is a big part of that.
Yeah. So that
All right,
leads
give me a
me,
third one.
yep, it leads me very well into the last one. And this is finding a person that can help you
Hmm.
through that journey so that they can help you get some clarity, help you with your highs and lows. I'm calling it the pivot pal.
Oh, I love it. All right. Yeah, this is the person that helps you, kind of like just your sounding board, maybe the
Yeah.
person you connect with. Yeah, I like it a lot.
And I don't think it's your partner, I don't think it's your mom, I don't think it's somebody you used to
Hmm.
work with. It's somebody that's on the outside that can have some objectivity for you to help you see, and maybe it's somebody that's gone through it before, and they can
Right.
help you navigate because the people have gone through it before, understand what's about to hit you in the future. And so having that pivot pal can help you make it through in a more objective and confident
Right.
way.
I think the key word there is objective, right? You want
Yeah.
somebody from the outside. I know many of our listeners are senior leaders and coaches, and have given that advice, give advice during these situations. But when it happens to you, it's so great to have that, what, pivot pal, transition trooper, have somebody come in and help you with that period of time, because it's super hard.
Pivot pal, transition, what'd you say? Trooper, transition
Trooper.
trooper. You had to get that in there. Yes.
I did.
And it's really helpful. I think that person can be really helpful to just allow you to navigate smartly because you
Hmm.
do get in your own head and you want to burrow and you don't really, after some time, after kind of the newness wears off, you need somebody that can really help you digest and put
Right.
things in order.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and I love your advice too. That it can't be your partner, it can't be somebody you worked with. Definitely somebody not at your previous job, because that's simply going to be the conversation will be very different. But somebody who is just you can reach out to. Maybe it's a weekly coffee. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just a Monday email. But yeah, I think having somebody there for you is a big deal.
Awesome. All right. So
All
the
right, can you
three,
do it?
I
Here's the
can do
fun.
it.
Here's the tough part.
I did
Wrap
write
us.
it
Bring him
down.
home.
Okay. I did write it down. So number one is to network light,
Yep.
meaning have a connection point every week with somebody in your network that's going to be meaningful
Perfect.
to you. Number two is self-reflection, active self-reflection, not passive self-reflection. So again, schedule time in your calendar where you're actually taking a moment to focus on you and reflect back. And then the third is to find your pivot pal. Who is that person that can help you and be your support through this journey for you? It's essential.
Oh, great advice. I mean, there are so many people going through these transitions right now, and it's a weird time. There's layoffs and hiring. So I think a lot of our friends are running into this. So that's such good advice.
Yes, and they always will be. So
Yeah,
this is one that will stay
that's
on the
exactly right.
shelves.
Sadly, this is the nature of the beast.
That's right. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Susie.